Rain fell softly over the schoolyard as Amara, a quiet 13-year-old black girl, sat alone beneath an old oak tree. Her uniform was clean but worn, her shoes scuffed, her hair neatly braided by her grandmother that morning. Around her, the laughter of other children filled the air, but none of it was for her. A few girls from her class stood nearby, whispering and giggling. "She's so dark you can barely see her in the shade. Look at her, she looks like midnight." Their laughter stabbed at her chest, sharper each time. Amara kept her head low, pretending not to hear, pretending it didn't hurt. She had learned long ago that crying only made it worse. Every day was the same. The teasing, the whispers, the stares, and what hurt even more was that no teacher ever stopped it. They heard, they saw, but they stayed silent. Amara loved learning. She was bright, curious, and especially loved math. Numbers were fair. They didn't care about the color of her skin. But when school ended, the safety of equations vanished. That afternoon, as she gathered her books, one of the boys called out, "Hey, Shadow Girl, don't forget your dark powers." Laughter exploded behind her. A crumpled paper ball hit her back. A phone camera flashed. "Smile for the camera, Midnight." Her heart sank. The hallway blurred. She grabbed her bag and ran, out the door, past the playground, all the way home. Her house was small, old, and filled with warmth. When Amara stepped inside, the smell of cornbread and soap wrapped around her like a blanket. Her grandmother, Miss Lillian, stood at the stove humming an old gospel tune. Her silver hair was tied up in a scarf, her back slightly bent, but her eyes still burned strong and kind. One look at Amara's tear-streaked face and Lillian turned off the stove. "Baby, who hurt you this time?" Amara hesitated, then whispered. "They laughed again, Grandma. Said I was too dark, too ugly." Lillian sighed softly and pulled her into a hug. Her hands were rough from years of work but full of love. "Oh, child," she said gently. "Don't you ever believe those lies? The sun hides in your skin, the night dances in your eyes. You are made of magic they can't understand." Amara's lip trembled. "But why can't they see it, Grandma? Why do they hate me for how I look?" Lillian smiled, brushing a tear from her cheek. "Because they don't know beauty yet. The world's been blind for a long time, but one day, Amara, they'll open their eyes. And when they do, they'll see what I've seen all along." The words sank deep into Amara's heart, a promise she didn't yet believe, but wanted to. That night, she stood before the cracked mirror in her small room. Her reflection stared back. Deep brown skin, dark curls, eyes that seemed to hold the night sky itself. For a moment, she hated what she saw. But then she remembered her grandmother's words. "The sun hides in your skin." She tilted her head and whispered almost to herself, "Maybe Grandma's right. Maybe I am beautiful." The next day, Amara picked up a paintbrush after school. She painted what she felt, a girl with dark skin surrounded by light. Her pain poured into colors, her hope into brushstrokes. She didn't know it yet, but that painting, that one spark of belief, would change everything. The next morning at school, Amara walked down the hallway, clutching her books tight against her chest. She could already hear it, the laughter, the whispers, the giggles that followed her like shadows. "Look, here comes the night sky," one boy said, snickering. "Turn the lights on, I can't see her," another mocked. Amara kept walking, eyes low. She'd learned that if she didn't respond, maybe they'd get bored and stop. But it never stopped. Every day, someone found a new way to make her feel small. She used to love school, especially art class, but even that had started to lose its color. One afternoon, she was painting quietly when her classmate Chloe walked over. "Why do you even bother with bright colors?" she said, laughing. "They don't even show up on you." The class giggled. Amara froze. For a moment, she thought she could swallow the pain, but something in her broke. She dropped her paintbrush and ran out of the room. She locked herself in the bathroom and stared at the mirror. Her reflection stared back, dark, tired, tear-streaked. "Why can't I be lighter?" she whispered. "Why can't I just fit in?" But then her phone buzzed, a message from her grandma. "Never forget, my sweet girl. God painted you in the richest shade of love." Amara wiped her tears. Her grandma always knew what to say. That evening, when she got home, she sat beside her grandmother on the porch. The old woman's skin was dark too, but it shimmered beautifully under the fading sunlight. "Grandma, why do people hate me for how I look?" "Because they don't understand beauty yet," her grandmother said gently. "They're blind to their own light." She smiled and squeezed Amara's hand. "You were born from the same dust that built the stars. Don't let them convince you you're anything less." That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She sat by her window with a sketch pad. Her pencil danced across the paper, drawing a girl standing under a bright, yellow sun, holding her head high while others around her faded into the background. When she finished, she titled it "The Girl in the Sun." It was the first time her art came from her pain, and it felt powerful. The next day, she carried her painting to school. In art class, Mrs. Ross, her teacher, asked her to show it to everyone. Amara hesitated. The same kids who had mocked her were sitting right there, whispering, smirking. Her hands shook, but she stood up and turned the painting toward the class. Gasps filled the room. The sunlight in the painting seemed to glow right off the page. Mrs. Ross smiled. "Amara, this is incredible. Tell us what it means." Her voice trembled at first, but then grew steady. "It's about how people try to hide my light, but I realized even the sun doesn't ask permission to shine." The class went quiet. Even Chloe lowered her eyes. And for the first time in years, Amara felt seen. That single whisper, "Oh, that's actually beautiful," echoed louder than all the cruel jokes Amara had ever heard. Mrs. Ross smiled softly, her voice full of warmth. "Amara, this painting isn't just art. It's a message." The class clapped. For the first time, Amara didn't want to hide. After class, Mrs. Ross asked if she could submit the painting to the city's youth art exhibition. Amara hesitated. She had never shown her work beyond this classroom. But then she remembered her grandma's words. "Your skin carries the sun. Don't ever dim your light." She nodded yes. 2 weeks later, Amara and her grandmother walked into a huge art hall. The walls gleamed with paintings from schools all across the city. And there, under bright spotlights, hung Amara's painting, "The Girl in the Sun." People stopped. They stared. Some even cried. One woman whispered, "Who painted this?" A local reporter approached Amara with a smile. "You have something powerful here. Can we feature your story?" By the next morning, her face was everywhere. Local newspapers, online blogs, art pages. The headline read, "Teen artist redefines beauty with a single painting." Days turned into weeks. Messages poured in from around the world. Girls who looked like Amara wrote to her saying, "You made me feel beautiful. I used to hide my skin too. Thank you for showing us we matter." Amara's painting had become a symbol of pride. Soon, a big art foundation reached out. They invited her to speak about her work at an international youth conference. When she stood on that stage, dressed in a bright yellow dress that made her glow like sunlight, the crowd went silent. She looked around, nervous for a moment, then said, "They used to laugh at me for being dark. But I learned something. The darker the skin, the brighter it reflects love. I used to think I had to fit in to be beautiful. Now I know I was born beautiful." The crowd erupted in applause. Some people stood, clapping through tears. Months later, her painting was displayed at a national museum under a golden frame. The same classmates who once teased her came to see it. They stared at the plaque beneath her name, Amara Johnson, celebrating melanin and courage. One of the girls who had mocked her in school stood quietly in front of the painting and whispered, "She was always beautiful. We just couldn't see it." Years passed. Amara grew into a confident young woman, a model, a painter, and a motivational speaker. She traveled across schools and communities, telling her story to girls who still faced the same pain she once did. And every time she spoke, she ended with the same words. "Never let the world tell you your worth. Because beauty doesn't come from their eyes. It shines from your soul." The same people who once mocked her now cheered for her. The same world that had looked away now celebrated her. And the same dark skin they ridiculed now glowed under the spotlight, just like sunlight on gold.